Hey everybody, this is Nathaniel Provincia with Kyle Palmer, man. Coming, not currently living in Columbus, Ohio, but in Columbus, Ohio.
There you go.
Kyle,
Yep.
man, how you doing, brother? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, man. Great to see you. Glad to be here. Thanks for asking, and can't wait to talk about parent engagement with you tonight because I know you know a lot about it as well.
Yeah, I know a little. I wish I knew a little bit more. That's why I got you on this show,
Yeah,
man.
that's what we
So
all are. Yeah.
our connection, Kyle and I's connection is we were some of the first to write about family engagement, community involvement in the context of professional learning community work. So Kyle, you and I are like pioneers of this work, man. So
Yes.
it's one of the things that I
Honored.
that I love about it. And but it's a different time, man. I don't know what's going on. Like I don't know if you watch something called the news, but man, what's going on, man? So that's what I want to chat with you about. It's been a couple of years since our books have come out. Parent engagement, community involvement, it's different from what it was prior to COVID. And what are some of the things that you're seeing right now that you are happy about? And what are some of the things that you see right now that you're concerned about?
Great question to kick us off. I think the exciting part of it is the advocacy of parents. I think there's been an effort to increase the engagement of parents, through the different means and all that. I think that parents are more aware of what is happening in their schools and their classrooms with their kids, most importantly. Um, you know, I think that probably came from COVID. It came from
Yeah.
having computer screens in all of our homes, and parents probably saw more than they ever saw before, which in some ways was good. So parent engagement is up. Like you, wrote a lot, during COVID and during that time. A lot of the passion behind my book was as a teacher, as a principal of 10 years and an HR director, working with new teachers, working with educators. A lot of them were so worried about working with parents.
Yeah.
They were told as new teachers that your biggest obstacle is going to be parents, and I had so many people that were scared to do that. I just thought, what do parents need to know about our teachers, and how can we, try to close that gap? But also for our parents, what if they were to understand a little bit more about the roles that our teachers play
Sure.
and the tremendous amount that they have on their plates and the pressures that they have? Because I think parents, thought they should just have open access to teachers all the time, and teachers. I mean, I remember when I was a beginning teacher
Yeah.
20 some years ago, I didn't have kids yet, and I was like, what are these parents doing at home? Why aren't these kids doing their homework? Why
Right.
wasn't there more going on? But then, 20 years later with four kids and realize how busy things are at home, I see why things don't get done at night, and I'm probably guilty of that parent that's doing that. So I think parents are more engaged now than ever.
Yeah.
But I also didn't write that book with the lens of some of the things that we see. Kind of, I think, kind of to your point, where is that line? And I was talking with a colleague of ours and a good friend of mine, Eric Francis,
Mm.
about this work, and I got to give credit to Eric. He was the one who coined that phrase, parent enragement.
Sure.
Instead of parent engagement. And I think we've seen too much of that as well. Whether that be from COVID or a lack of understanding, a lot of different reasons. And so maybe some more people will read our books now because of that. But there's got to be an easier way and a better way to get to that. But so we definitely don't want parent enragement either. And even though I will say it's when relation to schools, it's parent school too. They're a
Yeah.
big part of that, but we also have to have educators. They know what they're doing, right? We work with a lot of really smart people
Yeah.
and smart educators and smart administrators and school leaders that are doing a good job as well.
I remember as my brief time, right around 3 years as a superintendent, an associate superintendent, a very large school district. And I remember being at a school board meeting, and the the school board meeting room was just full. This was at the tail end of COVID, just full of community members and parents. And we were sitting, in this school board room, and I was kind of like off to the dais, kind of like off to the side. And I was swarmed by these angry folks, very angry community members. like physically, and they were like very close to me, and they all had the cell phones, and they were like, why don't you open the schools, and what are you hiding, and like, why aren't you? And I was like, like there was it was like a fight or flight kind of like mentality. And I was like, man, I'm scared, but like like, what do I do? I got to be ultra professional right now. And like, and like, do I protect myself? Do I want to lose my job this way? Like, what's going on? And I felt their angst. Like, I get it. Like, I can understand. And I remember reflecting after I got myself out of that situation, like physically got myself out of that situation, thinking about how many times were those parents ever invited to the principal's table at their school. I wonder how many of those parents were PTA members or served on a principal's advisory council or were asked to volunteer to read in their kids' classroom or help in the library or help at arrival or dismissal or just be present, for PE or whatever. And I don't think they ever were. I don't
totally
think they
agree.
ever were. I don't think they ever
Totally
were.
agree.
And I think that if you don't have a voice and a seat at the table, you will find a voice and a seat at another table, and it may not be the table you want folks to be sitting at. And I didn't really know that as a principal when I first started. I learned that over on, which is, why I wrote the book, because I saw this great connection between community involvement and engagement and, in basically our test scores, but I know that anger and that visceral reaction was not because they were strong members of their schools. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, the idea the idea I wrote about was, I think parents have a voice, and what you're talking about, and I'm sure I could, share a lot of examples as well is we when parents have a voice, we see a lot of that discontent or anger or and sometimes because of a lack of understanding, whether it's the news or their friends or
Yeah.
they're socially they're hearing one side of it compared to the other, not getting the whole story. So yeah, I love what you said there. It's not really having a voice, it's being a voice.
Mm.
And I think those are two very different things. In researching my book, I talked a lot with Darren Grissom, who's a Solution Tree executive director in Texas, and he gave me a great example and something to really think about. Is I think a lot of times we ask our parents not to do what you do, but
Hmm.
or what you said, but to donate to parent teacher conference
Sure.
meals or donate money to help the PTA, which are fine. But we have to get away from just asking them for that because a lot of parents may not be able to do that.
Yeah.
So let's do things like invite them in to be a reader. And there's a couple of things that I provided as a strategy in my book that would be creative ways to do that. But to be a voice, we need to ask them what their thoughts are, and I know in your book you've got a lot of good surveys and ways to access the parents and what they're thinking to be a voice. But we got to change that mindset. And
Yeah.
if we want to invite them in, we want them to be a partner with us. We have to ask for a lot more than just their money or their donations or their time. We have to
Yeah.
ask them what they're thinking. It's again, it's their school too.
I love that. I love that. And it's kind of like I always draw a lot of parallels to the business world. Like, listen, I'm a sucker for Five Guys. Like, I love me some Five Guys. I'm
Yeah.
actually becoming a sucker for In-N-Out Burger. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to make this horrible metaphor.
Must be
I'm
out
probably
west
gonna,
quite a bit.
I know I'm going to screw this metaphor up, right? But like, you walk into a Five Guy. You ever been to a Five Guys? You guys?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
you walk
Oh yeah.
into a Five Guys, and the first thing you see are their like magazines and awards and recognitions, and like it's a place that you feel like special. I don't know. I don't know what it is, right? And you just feel like, okay, just, even if all that stuff's made up, at least you just feel like, oh, they're celebrating their vision and mission. They're kind of putting their money where their mouth is. You go at an In-N-Out Burger, not so much all the visual displays of their recognitions, but they never screw anything up. It's like, and like they don't even have like a menu. It's like a secret menu or something, right? Like I went there the other day and got like a 4x4. It was like a secret menu. They nailed it, and it was perfect, and like consistency. It's the same thing with Chick-fil-A, right? they got 5 things on their menu. I was cracking up with my wife the other day. She went to Chick-fil-A and she asked what was on the menu. She wanted to see a menu. I was like, they got 3 things on their menu, right? They got chicken and shakes. That's it. That's what they got. And they keep things very consistent. Like they do a few things well. It's always my pleasure. If you screw up, they apologize, they fix it, no questions asked. And like we were never trained, and I was never trained in customer service. I had more customer service training as a cart pusher at a Walmart than I ever did as a teacher or as an administrator.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a place for us to consider ourselves, and this might be controversial, but our schools are companies. They're non-for-profit institutions, and our parents and our students are customers. And we're going to be losing customers if we don't get our act together, because now, whether with vouchers, charters, or even if, some schools don't have, and parents don't have any options, right? And if you don't have any options, why should you create a great product? But if you do have options, and I'm just hear me out here, then maybe you got to fight a little harder to not lose customers. You got to maybe value those parents a little bit more, and you can't take them for granted. Controversial. I get it. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I don't know where we're going to take this whole thing right now, Nathan.
Let's see, man. Let's see what we got.
No, I like business. I mean, I think some of the best leaders we learn from, like a Jim Collins, they're business, corporate oriented people. I've been reading a lot about, with Sean Aker lately, and there's Simon Sinek. There's just some phenomenal minds out there. There's a lot there that parallel right into the world of education. I think when you get politics involved in anything, it goes haywire fast. So I don't want to get into all that,
Sure.
but there was a great book 10, 15 years ago, and I don't know the author, but it was If Disney Ran Your School.
Oh yeah, sure.
And it really, the first books that I read that really made me start thinking more about what is this experience like in our school, and when I was a principal, and about that same time they were opening up kind of a magnet, type of school in our district that offered a lot of different things and offered a lot of really cool 21st century things. And I was probably, could be fairly described as a skeptical person, or
Sure.
a stubborn person, some would say. But and we start having parents who wanted to choose that school over ours. And we were a national model PLC school. We had become an international school, leadership for schools, model school as well. So we're doing a lot of great things here, but parents wanted option B. It really caused me to start thinking more about what kind of experience and were we offering an adequate experience for our kids. And yeah, vouchers, those things are causing competition.
Yeah.
So it is more about the experience, and are we giving a good enough one? And why I talk in my book too about the education triangle is we focus so much about parents, or about kids and students, right? As students and our teachers. Like, our teachers are working together, they're helping our students, they're doing all those PLC things that they should be, but that triangle has to include the parents as well. So how do we bring them to the table and talk to them more? And on top of all that, there's a nationwide decrease in population.
Yeah.
There's fewer kids coming to school every year. So that kind of adds a little bit into that as well.
Yeah, I agree. And, going back to our teachers, they're not trained to have good conversations with parents. And so I think there is a place for a customer service, customer experience mentality in our schools. I wish, I go back, like my assistant principal, she was great. She was our CXE. She was our customer experience, CEO, man. She was great with it. And she kind of helped a lot of the blinders and blind spots that I had, as being so solely focused on, instruction. I needed someone a little bit more affective to kind of help me out with that. Sure. But that wasn't planned. We were just lucky like that. And then I just started learning over time about how to make people feel great when they came to our school. And little things like making sure the mulch at the front of the school was tip top. And I used to walk outside at 6 o'clock in the morning and like pull weeds, just because I was like, I don't want to see weeds when I walk into this school. This is a special place, the Disney kind of mentality, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure when you ring the doorbell, the alarm bell, it doesn't look like a prison alarm doorbell. So instead of just, we have to keep lockdown and all that stuff, but instead of pressing a silver box, we put up the faces of the front office secretary so they knew exactly who they were talking to, and my face as well, so they knew exactly who they were talking to, just so that there was a human element. We trained our front office folks how to answer the phone. We were constantly trying to look at all these little things to make it a very affective, kind of like customer centric place. Failed most of the time. We're not going to be perfect, and we definitely piss parents off sometimes. I mean, it is what it is. We're dealing with very volatile situations, but we also knew how to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
And we also knew how to say, Mr. Palmer, we screwed up. Even if we didn't, we're sorry. We messed up. We failed to deliver to help your child. Now we want to try to make it. Now we want to try to make it better. But that's because we were looking for it, and sometimes we're not really looking for that right now. So what are some different steps that you're thinking of that maybe schools could learn now that we didn't do before?
Because we're in the people business, right? I mean,
we're in the people business.
Put your parent hat on for a second. And, I don't know about you, but like my kids came to our school and I was very proud of that. And that's another reason why I was so passionate about the work is I looked at what we did based on being a parent as well. So I wore that parent hat, and
Yeah.
it was going to be good enough for my kids. It was going to be good enough for everybody else's kid as well. And I think that perspective really, really helped me. And we had a lot of teachers whose kids went there. And I know that helped with that whole mission and vision purpose of what we were doing, and that people experience of things. I remember one time we had a school coming to visit our school, and the principal who was visiting that day, and we were lucky enough, we were fortunate enough, we had a lot of different visitors who came, and always remember, she said the number one thing that I'm going to remember about your school, she said, I knew within the first 2 minutes of being at your school. And she said, when you walked into your school, you could just feel what kind of place it was. And that always, and that really hit me. And I'm talking about it 10 years later, like it happened yesterday. We had a school that was 60 years old. We didn't have a brand new school, that had all the bells and whistles that some of the other new schools did. It was a 60-year-old school that had literally been added on to, I think, almost all the way around it, 360 degrees. So, but what we did, and like you said, I had two amazing assistant principals during most of my time, and then I also got to work with a third one in my last couple of years at that school that was also amazing. But I'll talk more about Katie. Katie was like that, like what you were talking about. She was everything I wasn't, and she was the colors and all that kind of stuff.
The chief heart officer.
The heart officer. There you go. The painting and the decor and to me, I didn't really care about that stuff. And I don't know if it's because I'm a man or what. I don't know. We used to have like stenciled wallpaper in our front office, and I thought Katie was going to pass out when she first saw it. So we changed all that stuff. I guess long story short, we changed everything we could inside of the school without like changing the brick and mortar and all that, which really went a long way. But to get to your question specifically, and I loved your idea of the pictures of the
little things.
So little things. So I did a strategy in a book called The Front Office Creed. And not to go too far into this story, but I learned my first year at Lewis and Clark Elementary the importance of that front office. And again, without going into a lot of details, our front office changed, and it was like that's the first face our parents see. It's the first face our parents hear when they call. That front office is so, so, so important. So I go through a thing called the Front Office Creed, where the front office is making some commitments to our community, to that customer service that they're going to have. And yes, our teachers have to do it, and I totally agree. They're not really trained on how to do that. I think one thing I talked about a little bit ago is our teachers, if you don't put the time in at the front end, then when you call in October, with a problem about Jimmy or Bobby in your classroom, you're gonna get a cold shoulder. You're gonna get a cold response because
Yep.
they don't know you.
Yeah.
They may have seen you for 2 minutes at back school night, but that's not building a relationship. So I know it takes some time, but if you want to have, a powerful relationship over the course of the year, you got to start it. You got to instigate it yourself. So when you call in October,
Yeah.
you're going to get somewhere with that conversation. So front office creed, I think that's a great, simple
I
idea.
love it.
Make some commitments. Know your staff. Know your front office. They've got to be amazing
Yeah.
with the public, with the community.
That's why I love the work of professional learning communities so much. And I think that's what kind of like is like a chicken and the egg. Like what comes first? Like your family engagement work or like your PLC work? Like we always saw everyone in our community as the people in our PLC, right? The professionals. We're the professionals, but our parents are professional parents. And they may not be the best, but they're the best the kid has, right?
Mhm.
And they're also the kid's first teacher. May not be the best,
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Yep.
but they're the best the kid has, right? And so if we're professionals in this learning community, then I interpret it as we're all learning together in our community, both the community in our school and the community outside of our school.
Mhm.
So once we got good with that, then we were like, all right, 4 critical questions. Every time there's an IEP meeting, we want a parent to know those 4 critical questions. All right, so if I'm at an IEP meeting, what is it my child's supposed to be learning on this IEP? How will we know when they're going to learn it? Like, what's the evidence? What are we going to look at?
Mhm.
What's the differentiation techniques? My child's really great with this. So, how do we provide extension? So, like, we were like, let's just go all in. And so, parent teacher conferences, hey, mom and dad, here are the questions we want you to ask our teachers. They better be able to answer it. Parents, your teachers are going to be talking about these things. So in having a commitment to our parents on the 4 critical questions, it held us accountable back and forth. And then
Good. Mhm.
when those parents, because we were an exceedingly transient community, when they left to go to another school or when they left from the elementary to go to the middle school, Kyle, they were armed with some kind of insight and knowledge to better advocate for their kids. So it was just so simple. Why would we not doing it? And helped us double down on those 3 big ideas. Learning. All right, everyone's learning. Essential standards. Mom and dad, you got to know these essential standards just like we do. All of our Title I nights, guess what we're doing? Essential standards. Collaboration, right? We're going to make sure our parents know that it's not just one teacher that your kid gets, it's a whole team. So we have to double down on that. And man, we shared those results, good, bad, ugly. We're the lowest in the state right here, moms and dads. We got to get to the highest in the state. Y'all got to help us out because we ain't good enough to do it by ourselves. That's why you got to help that kid do that homework. So then it became like this mutual accountability as a whole culture. Simple, right? But we had to make it a habit, consistent. In your work, Kyle, with schools, growing them as professional learning communities, do you see this kind of conversation happening or not quite there yet?
I don't know if they're quite there yet. And again, the purpose behind the book, but look at what Bob Aker and Rick DeFore did. Look at the
Mm,
clarity of what the whole model presents itself, right? And
sure.
you got the 3 big ideas, you've got the 4 critical questions that everyone can connect to. So what you and I both did in essence was really invite parents or the thinking about parents into that entire conversation. So
Sure.
you're referencing to our referencing to the 4 critical questions. I just reworded those questions a little bit to more specifically bring into, what did our parents have to know and be able to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to support our parents if they weren't able to do that? How do we know that they knew that? How could we, increase that
Yeah.
support from our parents to look through that same clarity because it is simple.
It
It's
is.
We can all talk the same language. There is that beautiful mutual accountability, for our teachers to think through that. But it all starts with clarity precedes competence,
That's
and
right.
you get everybody talking on the same page. I still think we struggle a little bit with what
Mm,
I see with that whole triangle idea.
yeah.
We focus on the teacher teams and our kids, but we're not focusing enough on our parents, because our parents are parents, and our
Yeah.
parents have a lot of amazing jobs, and
Mm,
and there's a lot that I offer in the book that can bring in our parents as career navigators and
sure.
ambassadors, and how do we really, like you said, the whole professional learning community. We have tons of parents who have all kinds of things to offer to our community. We just need to tap into that
Love it.
and bring them in as partners. That's where parentships came from.
Yeah.
Was it's just a play on partnerships, but it's parentships by truly involving them in that. And I don't think we do enough, and I still think there's an apprehension, especially when we see some of this parent enragement. That's
Yeah.
just it's kind of pushing each other. It's kind of pushing us away from each other more. But I love how you phrased it as well, and it's just a great way for mutual accountability, but for teachers to think through what's this going to look like
Yeah.
with conferences or Title I nights or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I would, I so inspired by Karen Mapp. I'm, beyond the bake sale. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with her work, out of Harvard. We actually have her planned to be on our show. It's like
Oh, sweet.
one of my Mount Rushmore kind of like,
I'm not on Mount Rushmore.
you're like
I'm a little pebble on the back.
well,
I'm fine, it's fine.
there's like another Mount Rushmore. You got the presidents and you got some other, you're the other guys. You know what I
I'm
mean?
good. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'm
Go
not even in the
ahead.
parking lot. I'm not even in the parking lot. But I just think we've been doing shit all wrong. I just think we got to double down on our parents, man, because they're the advocates for us. They're the ones that write the reviews. They're the ones that go, on Zillow.com or, great schools or whatever it is. And they're the ones that are giving us our feedback. And if we do a great job, there are missionaries that's going to promulgate the great job that we're doing. If we're not doing a good job, it's word of mouth advertising. That's what you got.
Yes.
It,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and
We
like,
say word of mouth, so I don't know if we lived, our family, we lived in a community of families that I was a principal of,
yeah,
which at first I was like, I don't know if I want to be that close or not, but the neighbors and we're all in school together, and it was great, but like word of mouth, there was nothing more awesome
yeah,
than going to the grocery store or the Five Guys or whatever
yeah,
it may be. I remember one time specifically, I was at a kind of way across town. It wasn't in our catchment area or whatever it may be, and I got to talking to the cashier. And I said, hey, I'm a school principal. She's like, oh, school principal. Oh, where you at? And I'm like, I said, I'm the principal at Lewis and Clark. And she stopped and she said, you're the principal at Lewis and Clark? And I said, yes. I said, it's the best job in the world.
that's
And she
right.
said, oh, I have heard so much about your school. I talked to so and so, I talked to so and so. So you're right. There is talk
Oh,
about, taking care of our families and our but our teachers made my job easy.
oh,
And
sure.
in the teachers we had, I mean the relationships we had, because I was again 60-year-old school, we had families who they went to our school.
Mm,
Our head secretary, Lori, was a student at our school. So
wow.
I realized very early on that there was so much tradition at our school that I really wanted to tap into that and make that a very proud thing. And we started calling ourselves, LC Nation and all
Mm,
that. Like you got to tell your own story.
that's right.
Someone else is going to tell it for you. But when you say word of mouth, I mean there was nothing better. So it develops trust.
Yeah.
So if you do you gotta own it, or you gotta call and apologize or whatever it may be. There's so much already there that parents are going to be okay with because we built the relationships. And so when we call in October,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it, I
I
get
got
it,
you.
I got you. So not every time, but
Not
it's
every time,
so
but
much
yeah,
stuff. So
it's not even
when
word
I
of
hear
mouth.
teachers say they don't have time, that you got to put the time in on the front end
That's right.
because it's going to pay for itself over and over on the back end. Sorry, go ahead.
No, man, I agree. And like even now, it's like word of mouth is kind of an outdated term. It's WOP, it's word of phone. Because back then, like in the cul-de-sac, I might be talking to two people. If I'm
No,
pissed
you're
at
right. No,
if
you
I'm
great
pissed at
point.
Kyle, it's two people that know. If I love Kyle, that's two people that know. Now it's 200 people, all my Facebook friends. So it's like even more tenuous, and we got to really, and it's not to fake it. I don't want to put any kind of artificial, show and like lipstick on a pig, so to
Yeah.
say, but we got to live it. We got to live our vision and mission. if we even have a vision and mission.
Mhm.
And we got to make sure, like you said, on the front end, like if our teachers don't know how to talk to parents, train them on the first day of school. Okay, guys, watch. I'm going to call a parent. Y'all watch to see how I'm doing this. That's how it needs to be done. Hey, listen, we got a bad email. I'm not going to write another email. I'm picking up the phone because, this is how we do things here. But a principal has to know how to do that so that they can be able to empower others. But yeah, man, if people just listen to us, all the world's problems would be solved.
I've been trying to tell my wife that for years, and I've not gotten very far with that.
Yeah,
maybe with this it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, and in full, as we wrap up here, like I'm a dad. I got a middle schooler. Woo, got a middle school daughter, right? And I got a high school son, man. Ooh,
yeah.
And I'm not the world's best, school dad. I'm on the road 150. I'm not on the PTA. I barely read the emails. You know what I mean? But if you call me, I'm going to respond. And, so even when you've got multiple degrees and living your whole life basically as an educator and a school leader, it doesn't mean you're going to be the best parent. And so, like, I want grace. I give all of our parents and our families grace. We all do the best we can, and we entrust our most prized possession to our schools, right? Mm-hmm. But if we don't reach out and have that relationship, we can't complain when something's wrong, and maybe it goes haywire. The best companies in the world are best because of their customer service. And the best schools could learn a lot and should learn a lot from that lesson. And some companies need to learn from schools too. It goes both ways right there. So, I don't want to lose any customers, and I know we don't want to get too political. I have no problem being political, but I know you don't want to get too political. But at the end of the day, I don't want any of our public schools to lose anybody. I want our public schools to be so great. There is no choice except for the community school. That's what I want. So let's not give options, right? And if there are options, let's fight like hell to make sure that our kids are getting an exemplary education experience. Our teachers are getting an exemplary experience as well. Oh man, and our parents are getting an exemplary experience. So that's what I want. So any final words, Kyle?
Yeah, with that, what is true, I think, is that parents are getting more choices all the time, and so again, good or bad, they're getting a lot more choices. So I like you, I love our public schools. I'm a 20-some year veteran of public schools and a student of public schools. I'm everything public schools. But I think at least, whether by listening to this or whatever it may be, sure. I hope that educators understand that same point, that parents are getting more choices all the time. So let's be a little competitive. Let's have a little urgency. That we're accountable. I struggle sometimes with teachers and teams and they're working, and I want to just scream. Parents have choices. They can do other things. So we're not just accountable to ourselves. We're accountable to our teams. We're accountable to our schools, and we're accountable to our parent community. And I was in a school today, and the principal was like, our teachers know that they're accountable because our parents are going to let them hear about it if they're not. That's right. And I have no problem with that. There should be a lot of high expectations for us and what we do, but no one should have higher expectations than us. No one should have higher expectations than our teachers, our principals, our educators in our schools. No one should have higher expectations than us.
I love it. Kyle Palmer, author of Parentships. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it, man. Asking.
This is a lot of fun.
Safe travels. And man, if I am in Kansas City again, you and I.
Absolutely.
Joe's Barbecue, baby. Let's do it.
Joe's, and we can go catch the Royals or the Chiefs. So
I love it. I got to go to a Chiefs game. I've never been to a Chiefs game.
Absolutely.
We're going to do that.
It's a great time.
Kyle, have a wonderful night, man. Thanks for joining me on the Community Connection. Take care.
Thank you very much.